Abhishek, they're reporting from the ground there on ground zero in Uttarakhand. Let's quickly take this across to Professor Raghu Murtugudde, who's IIT Kanpur Emeritus Professor of Earth Scientists. We also have Harjeet Singh, who's a founding director of Satat Sampada Climate Foundation. Let me start with you first and foremost, Professor Raghu. How much of this is, of course, there's been a cloudburst. Of course, it's a natural phenomenon. But many would say with the violations of the regulations that exist in terms of construction, particularly in eco-sensitive zones such as this, perhaps this kind of a death toll or this kind of impact on human life could have been avoided if the regulations and the laws were followed strictly here. What is your analysis, sir?
We have to be a bit more careful about it, because essentially what's happening is there are some global drivers. For example, because of global warming, there is a very rapid warming over the Middle East and the Mediterranean, which is shifting winds over the Arabian Sea, which is pumping moisture into the Himalayan foothills, and then you have the natural circulation of the monsoon. Those two came together to create this havoc, and the mountains offer a natural way to create these cloudbursts. But on top of that, we are local amplifiers to these global drivers, which is what you are mentioning in terms of land use, deforestation, various unsafe activities in terms of development or encroaching on floodplains and so on. So, of course, AMD predicted heavy rainfall in these regions, but they are not very specific to Dharali as such. So we have techniques now to actually downscale the IMD forecasts, which are very skillful at their scales of order 6 kilometers or 10 kilometers, let's say. So we have to bring it to these hyperlocal scales. So things are moving forward, but climate is changing much faster, and we are not slowing down on our activities of land use, which are not very safe. So we need hyperlocal information on risks. Lives could have been saved if we had done some downscaling already, but those are, some unfortunate risks that we face. No matter what we do, risk is never going to be zero. So we always have to keep that in mind, unfortunately. But we'll be, relict in our duties if we don't learn our lessons, do a proper post-mortem, and learn everything we can do so that next time this doesn't happen. And my heart goes out to those who lost their lives and are suffering right now.
Absolutely. And Harjeet Singh, the question is just this. Have lessons not been learned? A, the construction in areas which are closer to the riverbeds is the question I was asking earlier. We saw this in 2013. We saw this again later in multiple incidents. And also we were talking about so many kinds of early warning systems, sensors, etc. that have been put in place. Why was that not effective is a question that many would ask.
Well, I totally agree that we have not learned from the past mistakes and lessons. The fact is that we are stuck in a vicious cycle of seeing this kind of devastation, going for reconstruction, but not doing in a manner which is making our cities and our infrastructure resilient. And the fact is, this particular disaster is a brutal warning sign that our planet is in crisis. So what we are seeing is a deadly cocktail. So, and I would say it's almost 100% man-made, because climate change is also man-made. And look at the local factors. When we cut hills, when we do unscientific, unsustainable, reckless construction, we choke our rivers in the name of so-called development. I would say we are engineering our own disasters, and what we see is a direct consequence of that bad development. And of course, we should recognize that climate change is making it worse, and I agree with Professor Raghu that there are risks that are going to be there, but how do we manage that risk is a question, and we can manage those risks. We are a country that can send satellites, right? We have all high-end technologies, but somehow we have not prioritized protecting our people, our infrastructure, and recognizing that we are living through the climate emergency. And if we do not look at the local factors and our so-called development model, which is making things far more worse, and we will continue to see this kind of result. So it's absolutely human-made, and we need to learn from our past mistakes and the big lesson that we have learned today.
Professor Raghu, I'm looking at some of the reports, and some of them, claim that thousands of ancient Deodha trees in Uttarkashi were axed for the expansion of the Gangotri-Harshil highway corridor, even after ecologists warned of this. The question is that if there was such a huge number of trees that were chopped off, that too in an eco-sensitive zone, why was nobody paying attention?
Yeah, I mean, the question is how specific was the ecological report? For example, if you say all of Western Ghats is a sensitive region, then it becomes difficult to say Wayanad is more sensitive. And the fact is also that Dharali got hit this time, and this may not happen again for 20 years. So when we say it's entirely man-made, we still have to remember that monsoon circulation is a very natural circulation, and the global warming contributions to that are coming from global factors. So everybody is in this together, but the impacts are local. All global warming is local. So it is our duty to do everything we can locally, and we have to give kudos to National Disaster Management Agency, which works so hard and does all it can to reduce mortalities, and our own numbers show that our mortalities have come down. Doesn't mean even one loss of life is allowable, but fact is that we are making progress. It's not fast enough because climate is changing fast enough. Our economic development dreams are going a little too fast, and in the middle we have this deforestation issues. So can we stop all of it? Can we stop development all along the Himalayan foothills? Of course not. So we need more specific information to take action. There is always, hindsight is 20/20, but we have to stay ahead and see foresight. Planning for next 10 years has to be very, very solid.
The point, I partially agree with you that development cannot be stopped completely, but when it comes to eco-sensitive zones, whether they are coastal areas or, areas such as this in our hills, we have to be conscious of the fact that development will necessarily have to be in a slower pace if we are to protect human lives. We cannot have development at the cost of human lives. And I want to bring in Harjeet Singh on that point. Somewhere we seem to forget these messages. And if there are officials responsible for this construction, there has to be some kind of action taken. Perhaps it's too early in the day to hold people accountable. I know the recovery operations are still on, but there has to be something done so that people don't take human lives so casually and allow these kind of constructions in the first place. Harjeet.
Well, absolutely. Why do we need to look at development versus environmental aspect? It's not even a debate anymore. I mean, the reason we prioritize development or so-called development over environment, that's why we are seeing so many disasters. Why are we continuing that high-risk construction in ecologically sensitive zones? We have all the relevant science that is required right now. Ecologists and geologists have been warning us against this kind of construction. We have early warning systems, and I agree, mortalities have gone down. But the way climate change is impacting us, we are not able to catch up. I don't think there is any dearth of technology. It's about implementation. We are hearing that the kind of early warning system that was required upstream and downstream that has not been put into place. We are living in a world of artificial intelligence, yet we have not implemented some of the things that were agreed years and decades ago. How do we empower local communities? How do we stop that kind of construction which comes in the way of waterways? Why are we not preparing those waterways and protecting green spaces, keeping in view that the temperature has been increasing and disasters are going to multiply? So there's a lot that we could do in terms of satellite monitoring and reverse-based ground monitoring and more intense monitoring, especially in these areas, but we have not done that. So clearly there's a lapse, and we could have done much more. And
perhaps we could have done a lot more. At the moment, I just want to say that we are with our security forces who are out there ensuring the rescue operations in the most difficult of conditions. It's inundated, it's raining, it's dark at the moment, but yet they are carrying out those operations at ground, and we certainly hope that they are able to rescue as many citizens as possible. We will certainly be doing more in terms of analysis of why such incidents have happened. But for the moment, I'd like to thank Professor Raghu Murtugudde and Harjeet Singh for joining us and breaking it up for our viewers. Indian Air Force officials have issued a statement, and this is the latest breaking update coming in. The Indian Air Force Chinook Mi-17V5 Cheetah as well as ALH helicopters are on active standby at the Chandigarh Air Base for the relief operations in Uttarkashi district of Uttarakhand. The choppers are ready with the required equipment and material and would take off as soon as the weather clears up in affected areas. Let's quickly go across to Abhishek. Abhishek, Chandigarh se Air Force ki statement aa rahi hai that there are choppers on standby. Tetri and Rishabh also joining us. Abhishek, coming across to you first, this is very significant that Air Force is on standby at the moment, or kisi bhi waqt they can be pressed into the relief operations in Uttarkashi district of Uttarakhand.
देखिए, सबसे पहले मैं बता दूं कि जैसा मौसम बना हुआ है, मौसम के हालात जो उत्तराखंड में बने हुए हैं वो काफी चुनौतीपूर्ण है। अभी भी जैसा मैं अभी आपको आगे की स्थिति बताऊं, इस समय मैं उत्तरकाशी पे हूं और उत्तरकाशी में आगे के जाने के लिए रास्ता बिल्कुल तरह से ब्लॉक कर दिया गया है। ये उत्तरकाशी से आगे हम जा नहीं सकते हैं क्योंकि पुलिस ने यहाँ बैरिकेड लगा दिया है, क्योंकि आगे 10 किलोमीटर का आगे का रास्ता है, वहां लगातार लैंडस्लाइड चल रहा है और लगातार तेज बारिश चल रही है, जिसकी वजह से आगे का रास्ता रोक दिया गया है। और आगे वाले जो रास्ते हैं उसे इसलिए भी रोका गया है, जब तक कि मौसम साफ नहीं होगा तब तक आगे के रास्ते साफ पूरी तरह से नहीं किया जा सकते। इसी को मद्देनजर रखते हुए स्टैंड बाई के तौर पे चंडीगढ़ से जो एयर बेसिस पे जो F-16 वगैरह जो प्लेन्स रोके गए हैं, इंतजार कर रहे हैं, वो इसी वजह से कर रहे हैं क्योंकि आने वाले जैसे ही मौसम साफ होता है, मौसम, क्योंकि मैं आपको बता दूं यहाँ मौसम की जो दिक्कत हो रही है, बहुत ही ज्यादा क्लाउडी है, विजिबिलिटी उसकी तकरीबन 0 के बराबर है। और मैं यहाँ पर आज शाम को जब हम सफर कर रहे थे तो 4 बजे की स्थिति जो शाम की थी वो बिल्कुल अंधेरा जैसी हो गई थी। तो ऐसे में एयरफोर्स के जो हेलीज हैं वो किस तरह से फ्लाई करेंगे, ये भी अपने आप में बहुत बड़ा चुनौतीपूर्ण होने वाला है।
Stay with us, Abhishek. There's some more breaking news coming in. Indian Army officials have informed that 11 Army soldiers are reported missing in the lower Harsil. Despite its own people missing in the incident, Army troops are engaged in relief operations. 20 persons have been rescued so far. Rishabh, this is very significant. About 8 to 10 Jawans reported missing in lower Harsil is what we are told. And Army, despite all of this, continuing to engage in relief operations. Over 20 rescued so far is the information. Rishabh.
Well, Madhav, definitely. What we are given to understand that 11 soldiers, including 1 JCO and 10 other ranks, have gone missing. The army operations are still on in the lower Harsil area, and as of now, the rescue operations are still on. 20 odd people have been rescued till now. So a battalion that has lost, or at least 11 have been gone missing, is also right now undergoing this whole rescue operation. So in a way, you can see the grit of Indian Army right now in Uttarkashi. As of now, the sources suggest that 11 of our soldiers are missing. The contact has not been established with them. 1 JCO and 10 other ranks is what we are given to understand, while 20 in the Harsil region has been evacuated safely by Army. The injured have been taken to the nearby Army hospital.
All right, Rishabh, stay with us. More breaking news coming in. We've accessed visuals from where the Army Jawans reportedly went missing. You can see the video, in fact, on screens. Let's take a look at the devastation on camp. Open area, that's the area where allegedly the Army camp was, which we were just discussing, and that area being completely swept away in the deluge that is being seen over there. Tetri joining us. Tetri, these visuals are extremely shocking to even think that there was an army camp there, because we can see barely a few structures which exist. It really shows nature's fury at its maximum in terms of impact on ground. Tetri.
Well, absolutely very shocking and disturbing visuals we have been seeing since afternoon, and Dharali is the village which is worst affected by this cloudburst. And let me tell you that it is Kir Ganga river where we can see that due to sudden rise in the water level, this entire village got affected due to this floods, not due to this cloudburst. And not just that, but we have been seeing that since afternoon how there have been high-level meetings chaired by the Chief Minister. We saw that the Home Minister, Prime Minister did speak to the Chief Minister of the state. All the war rooms are activated. The joint operations by SDRF, NDRF are currently underway, and there are also rescue operations underway in the several parts of Dharali village also nearby area. What we are also told by the local residents over there, that approximately 200 people are said to be affected in that area. So those will also be rescued. Hospitals activated. Schools will be shut. The schools from class nursery to 12th will be shut. The colleges, universities, everything will be shut in the nearby areas as well. Everything is on red alert, and the rescue operations things are underway. We are on en route to Uttarkashi, but yes, in the midway also to from Haridwar, or in fact we move towards Rishikesh also. So there are landslides at regular intervals, and that is why in fact the people have been advised to not to move further or in the forward areas until unless it's extremely important.
All right, thanks so much for joining us, Stacey, with that quick update. In fact, I'm going to request all the reporters to stay with us because Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, Pushkar Singh Dhami, has taken stock of the deluge in Uttarkashi. He's confirmed that 70 to 80 people have been rescued so far. Take a look at this statement coming in from his side.
लगभग 70-80 लोगों को अभी सुरक्षित स्थानों पर निकाल भी लिया गया है। तो बड़ी मैं समझता हूं कि बहुत तेजी से ये बचाव का काम वहां पर हुआ है। इसके अतिरिक्त सभी विभाग यहां से कोऑर्डिनेशन में, सेना के साथ भी हम लोग लगातार कोऑर्डिनेशन में हैं और राशन वहां पर पहुंचे इसके लिए जिला पूर्ति अधिकारियों की पुलिस विभाग ने लगभग 160 पुलिस के लोगों को 10 सीनियर अधिकारी और 3 एसपी रैंक के अधिकारी वहां नियुक्त किए हैं। 3 नोडल अधिकारी यहां से भी नियुक्त हुए हैं। आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने हमें आश्वस्त किया है कि हर तरीके से केंद्र सरकार की मदद होगी।
All right, there's more breaking news coming in. In fact, the Ministry of Defence has said that the Defence Acquisition Council under chairmanship of Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has approved various proposals amounting to a total cost of about 67,000 crores for the Indian Army Acceptance of Necessity, or the AON, was accorded for the procurement of thermal imager-based driver night sight for BMP. This would enhance night driving capability for BMPs and provide higher mobility and operational advantage to the mechanized infantry. Let's go across to Rishabh. Rishabh, this is very significant, a massive deal being signed there. Take us through the specifics of what the impact would be.
Well, what we're given to understand, Madhav, that this is a massive deal. Billions of the money coming in, and the DAC, the Defence Acquisition Council, now clearing an important update here. BrahMos platforms being given to Navy, or for that matter, surface-to-air missiles being given to Air Force. This all comes after the way Indian armed forces have worked during Operation Sindoor. India has learned by Operation Sindoor where it is lagging and what are the loopholes, and now these DACs, and they have been DACs at a very regular interval since Operation Sindoor has taken place, and these DACs has very categorically showcased that how Indian armed forces are now putting forward very specific demands because they do understand that when it comes to 2.5 front war, that the doctrine that India has been working on, and if that ever happens, what India would require. And that's the reason that these DACs are coming up with very specific letter of intent, or for that matter, the orders that are being placed, or procurement, the way things are happening in the last 3 to 4 months. Especially Operation Sindoor has made the armed forces learn a lesson that what exactly specifically they need and for what reason they need. And that's the reason that these DACs are quite important.
All right.
And the way
all right. Thanks so much, Rishabh, for joining us. As far as that big procurement and deal is concerned, we'll certainly, of course, keep track of the impact of all of that in days to come. For the moment, I'd like to thank you for joining us. And with that, it's a wrap on the show this evening. See you again tomorrow night, same time.